Okay, I'm going to call to order the January 5th, 7 p.m. City Council Chambers meeting, City Council meeting. Roll call, please.
Munn?
Here.
Gem?
Here.
Bauman?
Here.
Petrola?
Here.
Wordball?
Here.
Here.
Besner?
Here.
Weber?
Here.
Salkaitis?
Here.
Folks?
Here.
Baumgart?
Here.
Okay, and so for purposes of the meeting, obviously we see that both Alderman Warble and Alderman Weber are appearing via Zoom. So there'll be that gap, and so Besner, my bad. All right, so we'll go ahead and ask if everybody can stand and join Alderman Gem in the invocation.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year to all of you. Good and gracious God, we give you thanks for the beginning of a new year, for opportunities, for challenges, and for possibilities. We ask for your guidance and your wisdom as we make decisions, have discussions that are respectful and are productive. We ask that you keep our police, fire, EMTs, all our public works, first responders safe as they carry out their duties to protect us and keep us all safe. Bless and guide our mayor, elected and appointed officials, all of our city staff, and all of our city employees as they go about their duties, their roles and responsibilities to keep us all safe and to make St. Charles a great place to live. Amen.
Thank you very much. Alderman Folks, if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody here to the City Council meeting. As you can see, for those that have come, we've got a little bit of a shift. So we're going to try to have it so where our staff is closer to us, and but from that perspective, I think well done, and we'll see how it goes. Alderman Salkaitis, do you have a motion on the omnibus agenda?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the omnibus vote as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Munn?
Yes.
Gem?
Yes.
Bauman?
Yes.
Petrola?
Yes.
Wordball?
Yes.
Besner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Salkaitis?
Yes.
Folks?
Yes.
Baumgart?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. There is no old business. There is no new business. We will move on to committee reports under government operations. Agenda item number 5, a motion to approve an ordinance amending Title II, Administration and Personnel, Chapter 2.04, City Council of the St. Charles Municipal Code. Ms. McGuire is going to be presenting on that.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to go over the items that were codified in the ordinance as attached. Both the red line and the clean version are attached. These 6 items that were outlined in the executive summary, I will just go over briefly for those as we switch to a committee of the whole structure, which will require that our meetings take place both on the first and third Mondays for City Council, immediately followed by our committee of the whole meetings where all business will take place before the committee. So going through the numbered items in the executive summary, so the meeting start time will remain at 7 o'clock per council direction. Special meetings can be called by any 3 council members. That is per state statute, so no change was made there. Number 3, Section 2.0409OA, that is the composition. The mayor shall not be a member of the committee of the whole. However, that section is probably the crux of most of the change to the actual structure, which means that the chair will rotate through each ward by number, starting with the most senior council member, and then it will move through each of the wards for each council member chairing a meeting for 2 consecutive meetings. If any chair member or any council member is absent, it will immediately proceed to the next person in the rotation without reverting back. That person will forfeit, whether it was a first or second meeting, their turn as chair. And at no point can any council member choose to forfeit or recuse themselves from being chair of a meeting and still attend that meeting. Number 4, Section 2.0409OD, that will define our current practice that agendas are set by staff at the direction of the city administrator, but we have now codified a process for adding items to an agenda. The mayor or any 4 council members can request an item be added either in advance of posting the deadline or during any city council meeting or committee meeting. Section 140 was the elimination of the order of the agenda. While we have not defined that in the ordinance now, we have made a modification, and I just want to make sure that's clarified for the record here this evening, that during our city council meetings, public comment will still be permitted as currently occurs, with public comment happening at the end of the city council meeting. However, during our committee of the whole meetings, we will now permit public comment during the beginning of a for committee of the whole meeting for items that are germane to the agenda, as well as at the end of the committee of the whole meeting for any open topic. So that will allow for 3 public comment periods every single Monday night. The final item is the definition of consent agenda. That will be the improvements of the minutes and then any other just administrative items, but nothing that shall be over the cost of $25,000. So nothing on the consent agenda can be for a dollar amount that is over $25,000, and those are the items that we went over at the last committee meeting. I'm happy to take any other questions. We're ready for approval of this ordinance this evening.
Okay, I think before there's any comment, we need a motion. So is there a motion?
Weber will move.
Weber
Second.
moves. Kim, second. Okay, now any discussion or questions?
Just a,
Go ahead.
are you recommending?
Yep, I recommend.
Just a comment, I guess. I am supportive of the measure. Thank you for putting together all the compromises from our last discussion. I think this will be a good improvement to how we operate. I did just want to say, I think as discussed last time, as I mentioned last time, I think the 25,000 cap for consensus agenda, making it so much lower than where it used to be, could create a lot of extra work for staff and lengthen our meetings, which already may go a little bit longer. So I would love for us to keep an eye on that and see if we might want to consider revising that over time. We can always ask staff to pull an item off of agenda off of omnibus as we do now, if we do want to have a discussion on an item by item basis. So that might be a thing to consider in the future to help us be efficient and to keep from overburdening staff.
Okay, thank you.
Just a comment. Oh, thank you. So thanks, Heather, for your time with this. I know I appreciate you adding the changes that we made. I'm not in favor of this, as you know already, so just wanted to publicly comment that. I just don't think that we need to change the structure of our government. Not to be redundant, we've talked about this a couple times, and we'll see how it goes. I'm pretty sure it's going to pass, but just want the public to understand that I'm opposed to this. So, but thank you, though, for your work.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Alderman Bodnar.
thank you. So for committee of the whole, you have 2 public comment, right? So before the meeting, but so how are we managing? I'm just curious, how does it work to ensure that the questions and topics during that public comment are tied to the agenda, because we're not asking people to disclose, what their comments are?
It's really just management of the meeting by the chair. If somebody's getting off topic, just asking them to save that for the end of the meeting.
All right, but we're not changing their process in terms of
Correct.
comments. Okay.
Nope, no sign up will be required unless council decides to go that direction, but as of right now, it's just an additional period.
Okay, so it'll be on the chair.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Okay, and we see a hand raised by Councilmember Warble.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things I just want to get clarity on. To call a special meeting for committee of the whole, 2.04.095, it says the majority of the committee members. It would be 6. Am I reading that correctly, or should it be 3?
So that's for a special meeting of committee of the whole. So the committee meeting itself is the majority, and that is consistent with our previous ordinance. It's a special meeting of city council that is allowed to be called by 3 council members, and that will remain unchanged.
Okay, and then on the omnibus vote, where we currently have it, like, for example, if you look at tonight's agenda, it'll say items with an asterisk, and then it'll say that a council member / citizen can request to remove it. Is that still the case, where a citizen can remove something on the consent agenda?
So I'm looking for the section that you're looking at.
If you look at tonight's agenda on the very top, where it says right under omnibus vote, and just read that little.
Yes, correct.
Is that going to remain?
Correct.
So citizens can come in and request to have a consent agenda item removed because it's not written in the ordinance. So I just
we have
wanted
not made
clarity.
any change to that.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, roll call, please.
Munns?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Spellman?
Yes.
Petrilla?
No.
Wordball?
No.
Bensner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Kulkaitis?
No.
Folks?
Yes.
Baumgart?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Okay, thank you. Next
Mayor.
up, any committee report for government services?
Mayor, I'm sorry, if I could just make one clarification that I forgot as well. This will be effective February 1st, so our structure will remain through the end of January, and then we will switch beginning February 1.
Okay, great, thank you. Any committee report for government services?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, anything from planning and development?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, we're now turning to public comment, so just kind of reiterating what we've talked about before. First, we welcome all public comments. There are no time restrictions on public comment, but I would ask you to be respectful of the speakers that are behind you. As I had said throughout this process, very proud of the way that everybody has taken the opportunity to come in. Remember, everybody who speaks has an opportunity to be heard and to be treated with respect, so I appreciate the way that that's been handled in the past, and I know we'll continue to do that in the future. When you please step up, please remember to state your name and your city of residence. And with that, if anybody would like to speak for public comment, please feel free to address the podium. Good evening.
Hi.
And one of the things, I guess, that we're learning about our sound system is that they have indicated, as you know, we record all these meetings. And so one of the things that we've heard and gotten some feedback on is sometimes our speakers, including ourselves, step away, and then it gets harder. So, yeah, I just would...
I'll get right up.
Yeah. If you could just remember to try to speak into the microphone if you could. So thank you very
Sounds
much.
good. Yep, thank you. My name's Tim Kane. I'm from Wheaton, so I don't live in St. Charles, but I do have family nearby in Wasco. I spend a lot of time here. I love the downtown. I like a night out at the restaurants around here, or an afternoon, bike ride by the Fox River. I'm here tonight because what happens in this city affects people I care about and people I volunteer with. And, most importantly, I'm here tonight for people who can't be, for people who've told me they're afraid for themselves or their families, for people who worry about being visible in public spaces, for people who show up to their court appearances in Kane County and are trying to do things the quote-unquote right way, in a system that changes on them every 4 years and takes decades to complete, while rarely acknowledging the work and dedication they put into it. On Sunday, the Chicago Tribune estimated the cost of Operation Midway Blitz at $59 million. These dollars aren't the most important aspect of all of this to me, but it also just feels gross to consider what we are spending to attack people in our own streets. And when it goes wrong, I fear many of the additional costs will ultimately fall on the localities. I also think the lack of response from this board creates real risks for this city. Civil rights claims, legal defense costs, potential settlements, and insurance implications. I'm talking about the kind of headlines that have already hit neighboring suburbs and could just as easily include the words St. Charles next. I've got pages of them from local, the Tribune, Daily Herald, Sun-Times. ICE uses tear gas in suburban enforcement, ICE activity linked to car crashes, ICE agent arrested for DUI, U.S. citizens detained in ICE raids, license plate tampering by immigration agents, lawsuits filed over denial of religious access. There's one that talks about how a high school canceled volunteering programs because they couldn't keep their students safe in it. These headlines don't just describe federal action, they describe local consequences. They affect how communities are viewed, how safe people feel, and how much risk municipalities absorb. West Chicago experienced this directly. Officials there reported that since mid-September, 40 people were taken without any warrants being served, including a U.S. citizen and a legal resident who were later released. Leaders there spoke openly about fear among families, stress on children, and real economic harm to local businesses. Hanover Park learned these lessons. After discussion, trustees unanimously adopted a binding ordinance prohibiting the use of village property for federal immigration enforcement. They did so not just to make a political statement, but to protect residents, to protect trust, and to reduce exposure for their town. When people are scared to go outside, that isn't safety. St. Charles can listen to its people and stand up for itself and be responsible with its budget against the federal government out of control and maintain the trust and reputation of this community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and board members. My name is Howard Miller. I live in Batavia. I joined a few hundred people this past cold Saturday morning, right outside, to stand on Main Street in St. Charles to celebrate resilience, cultural diversity, and the dignity of people who contribute every day to our community. This event was so important to St. Charles and Kane County that Channel 7 News from Chicago and the Chicago Tribune sent people here to cover it. Why am I here? Why was I there on Saturday? On April 9th, 1962, when I enlisted in the United States Navy, I swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, domestic and foreign. On June 8, 1966, when I was honorably discharged, I did not relinquish my oath. I still believe and follow it today. The Fifth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States says completely, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject to the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Unquote. Please note the first two words of the Fifth Amendment, no person. It doesn't say that person is a citizen or a visitor or an inhabitant or an immigrant. And I reiterate that it says those people shall not be deprived of life, liberty, or the pursuit of property without due process of law. We who have been involved in protecting the immigrant community in Kane County have witnessed ICE, Border Patrol, Homeland Security, DEA, and others who aren't identified as who they are, ignoring the Fifth Amendment. We're asking you not to give aid to these MIGRA agents by not allowing them to stage and or make detentions on St. Charles City property. Thank you for hearing.
Thank you, Thank you for your service to our country.
Amen.
Hi, my name is Mary Beth Finch, and I have lived in St. Charles in the 5th Ward for 8 years now. And I want to begin my comments by being honest that I struggled with the decision to speak. Not because I don't have anything to say, but because I don't know if you care. I want the city to act because I see the fear and the trauma and the negative impact of ICE in our community. And my question is, do you care that your constituents are afraid and suffering? I work in food insecurity, and I can tell you about all the people afraid to go to pantries, about the frantic attempts to get people food, I can tell you about the individuals missing in line at my church's food pantry. People are going hungry, and I don't know if you care. I worked for years with domestic violence survivors, and I could stand up here and talk about the people whose fears of ICE keep them from reporting to police, and how crucial it is that they know the police will not coordinate with ICE. But I don't know if you care. I know that you have heard incredibly powerful testimony, and yet here we are. And maybe if you are not moved by empathy, you are moved by property values. I'm looking to buy a home soon, and I have serious doubts about whether I can stay in a city that doesn't act to protect its citizens, that won't make clear that it will follow the law, adhere to due process, and respect the Constitution. I know that I'm not alone in this. And perhaps this council thinks the fears of the citizens are unfounded, that nothing that bad is happening here. But it is. I have seen it, I've witnessed it, I've seen people violently dragged away. And it's terrifying. I am terrified. And we see right across the border of St. Charles at the DuPage Airport, huge numbers of agents are flying into our community. Just last month, Bovino and 100 agents unexpectedly came through. Suddenly, in the dark of night, they were here. And don't think that what happened last month in Elgin couldn't easily happen here. And if it does, will the community be protected? If a 911 call is made here, will someone respond? And to be clear, the risk to our community is rising exponentially. ICE has announced that they have more than doubled the number of agents from 10,000 to 22,000. A $100 million recruitment effort is underway for this next coming year. The administration is calling for 100 million deportations, which is more than a quarter of the population of this country. There is no way to come even close to that number without a massive expansion of the violent and indiscriminate tactics that we have seen. Fear and trauma is going to increase. And I ask again, do you care that your constituents are afraid and suffering? If you care, and I hope that you do, I implore you to act to show that to this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ed Manning. I'm a resident of Geneva, but I also serve as the co-chair of the Racial Justice Committee at St. Charles Episcopal Church. Last month at the council meeting, we were all blessed to hear the story of that veteran that got up in front of us, told us about his history in the armed forces, and then gave a pretty powerful speech, I would say, about following the rule of law. Afterwards, I went up to him, and I wish I would have got his number. He's the kind of guy I'd like to sit down and share a cup of coffee with for about an hour. But I went up to him, I thanked him for his service and for coming here to speak to us. I thanked him for his wonderful speech. And, you know, sidebar, I wish I didn't have to go up to veterans and thank them for their service, but we don't live in that world, do we? They're necessary, they're important, they play a critical role in our society. But I thanked him for his service, and he reiterated what he said about all that he wanted was the rule of law to be followed. And while he was speaking, I don't know if you noticed, some of us were murmuring among ourselves, what is he trying to say? Whose side is he on? And we couldn't come up with an answer. So that night, I'm lying in bed, thinking about all the missteps in my life for the last 69 years, like I always do, and it dawns on me. This gentleman, this veteran who's so ably served our country, wants the exact same thing that we want. We want the rule of law to be followed. We want ICE agents and Border Control agents and whatever they are to have identification. It's a law. We want them to stay away from sensitive areas, hospitals, schools, our courthouses, our city halls. We want them to follow the amendments to the Constitution of the United States, like my friend Howard talked about. And most importantly, we want them to present judicial warrants when they're picking people up. I said this the last time I spoke. The mayor of West Chicago back in October said that 35 people had been abducted from West Chicago and not one of them had been served with a judicial warrant. You know, you all rightly listen to both sides of the story, and I applaud you for that. That's your job. But ultimately, you decide. And we're still asking you to make a decision based on compassion, justice, and most importantly, the rule of law. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Richard Wendt. I'm a 53-year resident of St. Charles. And I'm here to discuss the $25 million tax increase. People know that government needs more money. So do I. What percentage of my money should go to the government? A friend of mine said that we're paying 65% of our money to the government. That's an outrageous amount. How are we supposed to be able to live and do the things that we can do for our communities if we are having that money taken away from us? When I drive east on Main Street, I found all sorts of brand new curbs being put in. Totally unnecessary. If the road is bad, grind it up, put it down a new layer. We don't need to have that. It was a waste of money. As I roam around my neighborhood, which I am somewhat limited to by antiquity, I found a tremendous amount of brand new sidewalks put in. The city treasurer called me the other night and told me, well, sidewalks are only good for 10 years. Those sidewalks that were replaced were perfectly fine and would be good for a whale of a lot more than another 10 years. He said that the money is going to go to infrastructure, for one thing. What infrastructure? When we look around and we see the various infrastructure projects that are being done, they take 5 or 10 times as long as they should. Drive by on a regular basis and look, and you'll see that there are people standing around. They don't have canes to lean on. They're leaning on a shovel. Are they working? In Japan, you would never see that. I've been there 65 times. You find people who are working all the time. I don't know what infrastructure we're going to squander money on now. I was told also that it has to do with providing money for people to retire on. When you look at the property tax bill that comes June-ish, you find all sorts of silly little things that should be involved in a person's negotiating salary, not something that gets shoved off as a separate item for the taxpayer to pay. If this money is hopefully, or this tax is hopefully reversed, there will be a lot of things that won't happen. But they could happen if we hadn't done this other stuff that wasted a lot of money. Are you going to tell a policeman that he can't have his retirement because the money is in the sidewalk there? Or out in the curbs on North Avenue? We all have to learn how to live within our means. And $25 million is way more than St. Charles is entitled to. According to my philosophy, we should have a 40% tax rate, national, for everything. The federal government gets a part of it, the state government gets a part of it, the city government gets a part of it, the schools get a part of it. But we shouldn't have any sacred cows. The schools are sacred cows. We take a look at the educational system when I moved into St. Charles 53 years ago. The students were learning things in high school that they could use. Now we have the requirement, even a state law, which is also phenomenally stupid, that says that before you can get your diploma in high school, you have to apply for a scholarship from the state or from the federal government. The idea is that everybody's got to go to college. Yeah, that might be true, in that now you have to go to college to learn what I learned in high school. We have people in college, in high school, teachers that are teaching the kids what to think. Totally, totally unacceptable. Teach them how to think, not what to think. I could spend many hours, and I won't, discussing things that have been decided by a few quote-unquote scientists. I am a scientist. My endeavors took me to Japan alone 65 times. That means I spent over 2 months solid on an airplane. I came out of the electronics industry. Very un-American, you want to put it that way. The American way is to keep jacking up prices. The electronics industry has run them down, way down. The first television set our family had was a great big 10-inch black and white tube type set. It took my mom and dad both to carry it from one table to another. It cost, in those days, dollars, $500. How much is that translated today? More than 10 times that, I'm sure. It had a remote control. Me, Dick, go change channels. Okay? As I say, it costs $500. You can go to a store now and buy a 17-inch rectangular, thin color TV with a remote control and instant on for less than 100 of today's dollars. One of the things that I was asked to do in my employment was to reduce the cost of things. Don't let the quality go down, make it go up. One project that I worked on specifically was on a car radio. We build about 8 to 9 million of those a year. I was asked to pull $200,000 out of it. I did. I changed one resistor, which made no value, no dollar change as a function of its value. I changed the capacitor that was not a highly reliable one for one that was more reliable and cheaper. Okay? The cost came down $200,000 to our customers. The reliability went up. When somebody tells you that if you want to have high quality, high reliability, you're going to have to pay for it, I say that's a lie. When we started building the hard shell ignition system, the very first electronic ignition systems going on cars, we were using a metal transistor about that big. Our OEM cost was $1.26. The failure rate on the first 200,000 of those used was 80. Two different failure modes. Those failure modes were corrected. The next 300,000 units had 3 failures. All 3 of them were my fault. Okay? I made a change that eliminated that. The next 1.5 million had 1 failure, and I gave up on that because somebody beat the head of it in with a ball-peen hammer. That was not how it was shipped or how we used it, okay? The cost, as I say, was $1.26 when we started. It was 84 cents at the end of that period of time. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get a lot accomplished. You have to put the brain to work. And that's what I would encourage you to do. Look at figuring out ways to get improvements that don't cost a whole lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn.
Thank you.
Good evening, Kathy Brenz, St. Charles resident for the last 49 years. And I would like to start by saying that I have always had the greatest respect and admiration for my city government. Anytime I have needed any facet of the government, they have been there for me. I am wearing tonight, and this was not my late husband's shirt, this is mine, my First Amendment shirt. But since I have retired from teaching, I have lost my ability to read upside down and backwards. So I'm going to read it. Congress should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press, or the right of people to peaceably assemble. But I need to pause before the final segment of the First Amendment, because here is where I have been disappointed in my city's government, this council, the police department to a certain extent. The last segment says, and to petition the government for redress of grievances. What do I want? I want an ordinance. I want an ordinance that absolutely prohibits ICE from any public property, which insists that anybody who is operating within the jurisdiction of St. Charles have proper identification, get those masks off. And finally, that they have to have legal judicial warrants, due process. And what do I want with this ordinance? I want it written. And I would love to see, I want to see it read publicly by Mr. Mayor, Clint Hull, and you understand due process, Judge Hull, and backed up by the City Council and our police department and the other first responders. If ICE is going to be here, and I don't want them here at all, but at least they need to operate under those restrictions. Thank you. Mickey Powell from St. Charles. There's going to be some repeated themes here, I think. There's been some hearsay that many of the residents who have recently spoken at these council meetings are doing so as a part of a We Can Lead Change-driven effort. While many of the people here are part of We Can Lead Change, and we're proud of that, many of them, and most of them, are not connected at all with We Can Lead Change. So I just wanted to clear that up to start with. But I will say that these recent speakers were all feeling the same as we are, and that is they live in this community and they're deeply concerned about what is going on with ICE, what they're doing in St. Charles, in our state, and in our country. This past Saturday morning, you might have heard, we had 300 people show up here at the municipal building, holding signs showing support for our immigrant community. There was continuous honking, showing strong support from everybody coming by. And I will tell you that over the last 2 weeks, within 2 weeks, we have collected over 550 signatures in our community requesting that ICE keep out. I've got them here, and I can hand them over. 550 signatures. Over 550 signatures. So we've stood here before you, and we've shared lots of stories of harm and heartbreak, and it hasn't seemed to move you as a group. I will say that it really isn't about you. It's about this community. And it's really not a political minefield for you to navigate either. If you don't think that sharing any more of these stories will make a difference, I'll just share a few more things. Given what we now know is a well-documented recent history of generated fear, lawless practices, and the absence of accountability associated with these ICE operations, it's just difficult to sit by idly and watch the impact it has on the basic human rights of our residents. As a council, you may decide not to make a public statement or take any action, and that is within your purview. However, that choice of acting or not acting carries implications and reflects the kind of leadership you are exercising at this moment. We are paying close attention to both the actions you take and those you choose not to take. Many other communities in our area and across this nation have stepped forward to speak clearly and with reassurance and provide real leadership during these unprecedented times. Their citizens know that they have their backs. We've been disappointed by the response to date we've seen here. I want to thank some of you for taking time to meet with a few of us to discuss potential actions moving forward. Unfortunately, progress has been slow, and in my estimation, the limited actions of this council do not go far enough. You can't hide behind a website, other organizations doing the work, local businesses, school boards, or the law. You need to listen to your constituents, not donors. You need to hear that, we hear from you, there's nothing we can do. We're following federal law. Well, you heard a few people talk about federal law tonight. Let's talk about federal law. Here's a few questions. Are people being served judicial warrants? Are people being given due process? Are people being treated with dignity? Is there accountability for these secret agents? Is there a process where families can track their loved ones when they're disappeared? The answer? No, there isn't. There isn't. So no government agency should be above the law. For the law to have any meaning, there needs to be accountability. And right now, there is none. These actions by ICE are inhumane, un-American, and morally corrupt. They are grabbing children away from mothers. They go into restaurants and grab workers in the back. They go to job sites and grab construction workers. They go to schools, stores, and places of worship. Over 80% of these people have no criminal record. As cited by the Department of Justice's own records, and I'm going to reference the Chicago Tribune paper, November 14th, 2025, stating that of 614 arrests, 16 had minor criminal histories of some kind. This is not the worst of the worst. So who is upholding the law? Who? ICE is not defending America. They are terrorizing our citizens. The idea that anybody can say I'm pro-ICE is just antithetical to human rights. St. Charles promotes a reputation of being a welcoming community, but we are now living in unprecedented times. This is an authoritarian government. We imagine there's going to be increased numbers of raids in the coming months, and we need to be proactive, and it needs courage. What can you do? Well, making a public statement would just be a good start. We haven't heard that. We do not have the luxury of time. I'm going to repeat that. We do not have the luxury of time. Many citizens have already spoken thoughtfully to this council about the need for due process under the law, about federal agents operating without transparency or accountability, about federal government increasingly failing to uphold constitutional and democratic principles and norms. This is how we are losing our democracy. This is when courage is required. Regardless of the choices of this council, whatever you decide, the citizens of St. Charles here, we will not allow action or inaction to deter us from our work. We are moving ahead. We are moving into the community to spread our message. We as citizens remain deeply engaged in efforts that support our community residents through food drives, public education, keeping our community informed, civic engagement, and work in elections. The need is real, the work is ongoing, and we will continue to support all of our people with a message grounded in justice, dignity, fair play, and empathy. These issues and challenges are evolving, and we don't know where they will lead our community or the nation in the coming days. We hope you will choose not to be complicit in injustice. As we all move forward, we're going to remind you that your legacy as leaders will be made in your decisions and actions. We will be watching and hope this body ends up on the right side of history. This will be your legacy. Thank you.
Hello again. My name is Lauren Carter. I have been a resident of St. Charles since 2011. My husband and I moved here to raise our family. We fell in love with the community and all of the promise that it offered. I have been active in our community as a volunteer. I am also extremely active nationally. I am a small business owner, and I focus my efforts on supporting underserved and under-resourced communities. I spoke to you on November 17th, and I appealed to your humanity. I'll be frank, I don't want to be here. My kids resume school tomorrow. I want to be with my kids. I left dinner in a hurry to get here to speak to you because I spoke to you on November 17th with many of the other people in this room, and you've done nothing. My heart is broken. And I am away from my children right now to speak to you again. You're looking away from despair, distress, and frankly, terror that is ripping through our community. I have seen it with my own eyes, and just because you turn away doesn't mean that these deeply un-American, immoral, and horrific things are not happening. They are still happening whether or not you choose to see it and acknowledge it and do something. I said this to you on November 17th, but the monarch butterfly pins that you see around the room symbolize immigration and represent resilience, hope, and respect for migration. We are a nation of immigrants. The vast majority, if not all of us in this room, are the descendants of immigrants. And they came here seeking a better life, and they built the foundation for the very lives that we now lead here in St. Charles. Unfortunately, St. Charles has a reputation of being lily white, and it breaks my heart that many view our community as being unwelcoming to communities of color. I hear this regularly. Is that our legacy as a community? I would be remiss if I did not point out that all of this is happening under the backdrop of a federal administration that is actively defying the Constitution and international law Just because an order is given does not mean that it is legal, and it does not mean that it is right. This moment in history will be remembered. It will be written. How will you be remembered? How will we as a community be remembered? I am here tonight away from my children because I want to leave a legacy as someone who gave a damn. Thank you.
Hello. Hello. My name is Bruno Hilgart. I'm on my 56th year of living in St. Charles, if you don't count the 30 years of raising my family in Geneva. And I've sat and listened to everybody speak tonight with a lot of passion, a lot of conviction, a lot of knowledge. And I don't think everything I'm going to say tonight is going to be that popular with everybody necessarily, but I do believe that we have to figure out a way to deal with this legally. We have immigrants here. We're all immigrants. I just heard that, and that is so true. The caveat, though, is that we all need to be here legally. And there are ways to go about that. I have personal experience with this. I managed all the Burger Kings around here for 16 years, working for a guy who owned them for 30 years, right out of high school. And for those 16 years that I was the face of this company, we employed hundreds of employees, great people, made a lot of friends, met a lot of great people, had very low turnover because of the way we treated our people. I believe in business that we're only as good as our people. We take care of our people, the numbers take care of themselves. I wrote a book about it. It's called French Fry Leadership, How to Attain Profits Through Serving People. And while I'm thinking about this, I have to say that I've been to D.C. 3 times in my career, been to Springfield a couple of times, and I'm passionate about politics. I'm passionate about people, serving people. And I want everyone in this room to know that when I look at Congress and I see one party on one side of the aisle and one party on the other side of the aisle, that really bothers me. Because if we're going to get anything done, we have to come together. We have to sit together to come together. We should force our politicians to sit together and talk amongst ourselves. I got here a little early tonight, and I met 4 names that I'll remember, 2 Heathers, a Sue, and oh gosh, I'm not going to remember the 4th one now. Kathy. Thank you. And we were having some great conversations. Nobody really knew who each other was. This is my first time here. And I think it was heartfelt, and it was just getting to know each other. We weren't even talking about this issue at first. In fact, I think some of them thought I was here with them, and I'm here with us, because we're all in this together, guys. There's some things that we have to consider, though. People who are here illegally are not paying their fair share. I want to explain why.
All right, so just again, as a point of order.
I want to explain why.
No, we have done such a wonderful job.
Hold on.
No, Mr. Hilgart, just give me a second.
Okay.
We've done such a wonderful job of respecting every speaker that's up. And when somebody either catcalls or does whatever, it takes away from the messaging that was done before that speaker spoke. So I would ask and implore everybody again to give every speaker the same respect. Doesn't mean you have to agree or disagree, but just please give everybody the respect that they deserve. And we've done that, and I would expect us to continue to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Let me explain. And employing hundreds of employees at any given time at our Burger King restaurants, which we no longer own. They were sold in 2019, and I haven't worked there since 2012. we had dozens of people on our staff whose Social Security numbers did not match up at the end of the year. We did all what we could do. We collected the Social Security numbers, the driver's license, all these different forms of identification that we were required to do. And majority of the people that had Social Security numbers that didn't match up claimed many more dependents than they actually had in an effort to avoid paying taxes. We finally decided, because our guests were telling us that we had too many of employees who didn't speak clear enough English to serve them, that we started e-verifying before we hired people to make sure that they were legal citizens. It shrunk our applicant pool some, but we were following the law. And that's kind of the bigger point here. When people are here illegally, many times it winds up costing the rest of us extra money that we could be spending on ourselves and our families to take care of our people, to take care of the people that matter the most to us. And, whether it's in our schools, driving on our roads, using public services, and I'm sure there are things I'm not thinking about that we all pay taxes on to cover. Now, there are very small percentages, and the thing about it, and I was talking to Heather earlier about this and how we can't even believe what we see anymore. We used to be able to, you see a picture or a video and you thought, okay, now that's real. We don't even know that anymore. So there's a lot of statistics and things going around on both sides. They're saying this and this and that and that. And I heard a lot of things up here tonight about the small percentages of people that are more dangerous, let's say, and should be more expedited out of our country. And while it is a small percentage, and there should be a way to go after them, and that's where I feel like we have to figure this out, because I don't want to see people being taken off the street and taken out of their homes and stuff. And I have to say, I have not seen that myself at all. I know some of you have, and I have not. I have heard of one incident from a neighbor where I live who said that they saw something a few weeks ago, and that's the only time I've heard anything about it. So I'm blessed that I haven't actually seen it, but I don't want to see it. I don't want to see anybody doing that. Now, I know there are ways for people to come forward and identify themselves as being here illegally. I used to say, when I went down to Springfield, I remember saying this, there should be a way to simply do this. Identify yourself, pay a fine for breaking our law, catch up on your taxes, whatever that might be, over maybe the last 5 years. If people have been here for 20, 30 years, we got to figure that out. Let's be fair about it. And learn English if you haven't. That's important, I think, if you want to be everything you can be in our country, you should learn the language of the country. I know it's not a law, per se, but it's something like, if I was to move to Germany or something, and that was the dominant language, I wouldn't expect them to learn my language. I would expect to learn theirs. So there are ways that this can be dealt with. And I'm hearing about ICE agents not showing their faces. Well, there's a flip side to that, too, that a lot of people have to realize, is that these people are risking their lives, in a lot of cases, doing their jobs. Now, it may not seem that way, obviously, if we're just taking somebody off the street and people have seen that, that's maybe a little different, but there are times where there's very dangerous situations going on, and especially if peaceful protesting turns into something more than that, which we've all seen that going on over the last many years. We've seen peaceful protests, that are nothing peaceful at all about them. And so people get fired up. They get passionate. I get it. I'm a very passionate person myself about politics, about sports, Chicago sports, and about leadership. That's about all I know about. I don't know about much more than that. So I'm passionate about it. So I think that the city council, you guys are in a tough spot because I feel a lot of passion in this room and I understand where a lot of it's coming from. I don't blame that. But like somebody just recently said, I'd rather not be here too. I mean, I've been asked to do more things and I don't want to be here. I want to be home relaxing after a long day at work. My kids are growing up, luckily, so I don't have to deal with that anymore. But I feel compelled to come here tonight as a proud St. Charles Saint, class of '83, and also serve my community to this day as a precinct committee chairman, or precinct committee person with the St. Charles Republicans. That I wanted to, I guess, and I hate to say this, but speak from a different perspective, let's say. I don't want to say other side, because we're all in this together. I used to own a business in town, and that's how I got to talking to Heather tonight. Her son, as an 8-year-old, was a client of ours, and she remembered me. And just that alone made it worth me coming here tonight, because I made a difference in what is now an 18-year-old senior at St. Charles High School's life. I used to volunteer my time to talk to kids who got in trouble with the law from 7 to 9 o'clock once every couple months. I would go talk to them about jobs, about applying for jobs, about what makes a better job. It was so rewarding that when we got done, they all wanted to apply for jobs with us. The teachers that I was working with were telling me they were learning stuff about business, about, what's really important, the high school kids. Number 1, family. Number 2, school. Number 3, social life. Number 4, this job. We talked about that. And they all learned a lot of stuff. I've been out to the boys' home a few times and talking to kids out there who have gotten in trouble with the law. And of course, those kids have more serious crimes. I couldn't even wear my name tag in there because the pin on my name tag was considered a weapon. So I have some perspective in all of this. And I ask all of us to think about where you think now, step out of that, move over to a different clear area, and think about the other side of it a little bit. We all need to do that. There has to be a way that council can figure out a fair compromise to allow ICE to do what this country elected it to do. Okay? It was a mandate. And as far as the election results, I know some of the states were really close. And allow the will of the people to go forward without it becoming such a contentious situation. So my recommendation is, as far as the ICE agents and they can't be seen and all that, I mean, if their faces are shown, they are in danger. They've been attacked as well. We all know that. And that's no way to handle anything. Violence doesn't solve anything. It's a last resort. And people, I heard some reference to what's going on with another thing outside of our country now and over the last few days. And there was plenty of warning about that we all have kids, we have to discipline them. So, I mean, we don't want to do that, but sometimes it comes down to, well, hey, enough's enough. Laws are laws. We don't like the laws. We elect people who can change the laws in fair, honest elections. So, I just think there ought to be a way that council can compromise here in some way to satisfy maybe not everything that everybody wants, but something to show some action, some care, and yet allow people that are illegal to become more quickly legal. I mean, as a business owner, I wouldn't want my employees being taken out of my place. But I also would rather have that employee self-identify and be gone for a couple months and come back legally. So let's figure it out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You could step up and identify yourself in town of residence. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Hackman. I live in Wheaton, but I'm frequently in St. Charles because it is a beautiful little town. And as Tim mentioned, I love riding my bike here by the river. Couldn't ask for a better ambiance. I even like the sidewalks. I do have a couple of points of view that I would like to share, and I'll try to be brief. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight. And I'll try to keep my comments limited to facts rather than anecdotes from 12 years ago at Burger King.
So I'm just going to interrupt you. Again, as a point of order, it's not appropriate. What we want you to do is tell us what you want us to hear, not comment on other speakers. So we'd love to hear what you have to say. Thank you.
Sure. On the topic of facts, undocumented immigrants, not illegal aliens. No human is illegal. They are undocumented. They paid $26.2 billion into the Social Security Trust Fund in 2023. If we're looking at last year, it's probably a higher number. And that is just one part of the estimated $89.8 billion that they paid last year, or in 2023, in combined federal, state, and local taxes, although most undocumented immigrants will never collect these benefits. So in terms of contributing less than they take from our society, that is simply not accurate. As far as coming to this country the right way, that is easier said than done. Prior to this current administration, I believe the shortest start to finish asylum application to citizenship path was 2 years. It's not a matter of a few months, and that is the shortest. The average is 5 years. I will say that has gotten significantly longer given the changes to the temporary protected status policy of the current administration. So if you are here as an asylum applicant from Afghanistan, Cameroon, Ethiopia, Myanmar, South Sudan, Venezuela, or Lebanon, Syria, South Sudan, Honduras, Nepal, or Nicaragua, prior to this year, you could pursue your asylum application under temporary protected status, and as of this year, you cannot. You are now considered illegal. So, in my opinion, that is having the rug pulled out from under you. In the meantime, I think it is our responsibility to protect vulnerable communities. We're not asking for special privileges, special treatment, due process, as stated in the Constitution. That is what is being asked, and that is what is fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Lazaro Escalona, and I also live here in St. Charles, and only moved here about 8 years ago. And my wife and I initially we came here as a corporate transfer. We belonged to a corporation that moved us all over the place. Our initial thought was, when I retire, we're going to move away, which is, kind of normal. We've lived in the South our entire life. So we're thinking, I want to go back to regular, nice 364 days, right? However, we completely changed our minds. We love living in St. Charles. We very, very much, we no longer have a plan. We have no plan to go anywhere until I can no longer carry firewood. No. So the thing is that I agree with everybody who has spoken, because I also agree that we do need to talk, both sides. I'm very much in the middle. I take great pride in being able to talk to a lot of people on both sides, discuss facts. Okay? And so, although it's been mentioned that from what I could tell, everybody here is from an immigrant family, I'm an immediate, my life, I'm an immigrant. And I came over following the law, so I agree that people who have broken the law need to face the law. However, the circumstances that are happening today mean that I would not be here, because my family went through following the law, asking for asylum, going to court, and asking for what we wanted to do, and that was live in the United States of America. What's happening today, though, with ICE waiting outside courts and police stations, and then just taking somebody because they know they're not a citizen. ICE can tell they're not a citizen, but they could be applying for it, and they're being taken. That's not right. My mom would have been taken away. It was a single mom, and it was just the two of us. And because I was 6 years old, I'd probably be put in some kind of orphanage because my mom would have been shipped back. That's what we have to stop. And that is what a lot of the people here, from what I hear, is you need to help us. Stop them from taking people from your buildings, your courthouses, and then condemning them without knowing that they've done anything wrong. They're actually doing things right. Let's respect that.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other people that want to speak? Public comment. Okay, thank you. A couple different thoughts before we adjourn for the night. Number one, on behalf of the entire City Council, I want to again thank everybody for being here. It's important, and I can tell you that I've talked to all 10 council members. We appreciate the time that every speaker is giving us and the courage you have to stand up to the microphone and share your opinion. Next, I want to, on behalf of the council, say thank you for continuing to reach out to us and to meet with us. Different council members have had different meetings. All 10 of us talk, not in violation of the Open Meetings Act, but we continue to communicate, and all 10 council members share with one another the conversations that they've had, the concerns that have been raised, the action items that have been given, and I will again tell you that on behalf of not only myself, but all 10 of us, we appreciate those conversations. Some of those conversations are hard, but we always want to have them, and we continue to want to have them. And so finally, on behalf of the City Council, I will again encourage you to continue to reach out to us as you have the right to do, and we will continue to have those conversations. It's never easy to hear when people are disappointed in inaction or inaction, but we understand that comes with our jobs, as does making sure that we listen, that we sit down, that we continue to work together, and that we continue to I guess, keep coming back to listening and trying to work together on behalf of the community. So I appreciate that. A couple different things I want to end with. January 9th is National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. And on behalf of the entire City Council, I would like to send our sincerest thanks, Chief, to you and all members of your department. Your jobs are not easy and often thankless, but on behalf of the entire council, I want to thank you and your entire team for protecting our community. And most importantly, as a new chief, not most importantly, but as a new chief, you have done a wonderful job of acclimating yourself, of being engaged, of going out into the community, and that's a representative of our entire department. So thank you very much. Just next up, as it relates to the next City Council meetings, we typically have them on Monday. Monday, January 19th, there was going to be no public meeting because of Martin Luther King Day. So the next council meeting will be on Tuesday, January 20th. And then finally, I just want to end by acknowledging we had a longtime St. Charles citizen that passed away. His wake was tonight, Ron Johnson, 84 years old. And when I thought about Ron, the words that came to me were a quiet hero. Ron was born and raised in St. Charles, graduated in 1959. He was a veteran and served in the U.S. Navy. He worked for many, but when I say a quiet hero, Ron is the type of person that served our community, never ever asked for recognition, never wanted recognition, but when you look at the life that he led, he worked for the Kane County Sheriff's Department. He worked for local police departments. He volunteered for the fire department, and then served 18 years as our township commissioner. Retired, this cracked me up, he retired in 2015 and then ran and became our township supervisor in 2017 and was in that role until he passed away unexpectedly. So, you know, I've heard a lot about how much pride we have in St. Charles. When I think about Ron Johnson, he's the type of person that we all should emulate to be. He worked hard on behalf of the community, and I just wanted to make sure that we recognized him tonight for a wonderful life. So with that, I would like a motion to adjourn.
Are there comments for?
Any other comments by council or by staff? Council?
Guess what, I have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Request for staff. I have at least 3 council people who are interested in staff exploring what a proclamation related to the topic of ICE could look like. Something perhaps that says, we know that we can't do anything in violation of federal law, but something that perhaps says we support due process here in St. Charles and we are against racial profiling and the enforcement of the law. I don't know if those are the right ideas, but some sort of statement that we can make to our community. It's very difficult for us to make laws that supersede federal law, but just to show that we continue to support proper due process and so on.
So that's absolutely a policy directive that we can receive as staff, and we can present something as soon as council would like to see that on an agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for reminding me of that.
Good idea. Nope.
Anybody else to my right? Councilmember Munns?
Thank you so much. I have a couple of items. One is, and I know that staff is aware and many council members have also heard from residents who have concerns about the snow removal. I want to thank Public Works for their hard work. It's unexpected. You know, you never know exactly how much snow you're going to get or how that's going to work out. But I know that there are some concerns about the placement of that snow and how public walkways are affected and ADA accessibility. And I know that on January 20th, our Tuesday meeting, there will be a presentation by Public Works. So thank you in advance for that. I know that there are people that would like to understand better about how we can do that maybe in a more effective way that serves the community, makes our sidewalks accessible, and our residents being able to traverse their own neighborhoods in those situations. My other comment is about the many really thoughtful comments that have been made by people tonight and previous evenings. I struggle to say this without sounding frustrated, but it's difficult because we are working with everybody. We have had some group meetings with stakeholders in this community. People from We Can Lead Change and other organizations have sat down with myself, the mayor, Alderperson Weber, and we have sat down to look for some meaningful things that we can do. Unfortunately, I don't personally believe that an ordinance itself is a meaningful action, because we cannot, to Alderperson Spellman's point, we cannot supersede federal laws. We cannot have police officers arresting agents of federal law. So we want to do things that are actually protecting residents and helping them in some way. And those things do have to be done in having conversations. There were a lot of great comments tonight about having conversations with people. I would encourage everyone in this room to have those conversations with people that maybe you don't, on the face of it, agree with, because there are really good pieces of perspective in that. And I want you to know that we're all doing that. It's not falling on deaf ears. We don't lack empathy. This keeps us up at night in these jobs that keep us away from our families in the evenings. in this very, very part-time role that we've taken on because we want to better this community and we want to be good stewards. We want to be good with your tax money. We want to be good with the residents that live here. We want to make things as good or better than we found them. So that's just my perspective as one council member. I speak only for myself here, so thank you for the opportunity today.
Thank you. Mr. Sulkitis?
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up tonight, hearing both sides of it. I appreciate it. I'm glad we got a full house. I always encourage anybody to come down and speak, however long it takes. I have no problem listening here for hours if I have to. That being said, I do agree with Alderperson Spellman about trying to do something that we can do that we can legally do, but yet show that we are concerned about what's going on. And however, ordinance, resolution, whatever, I think we need to look into it and to see what we can do.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
No, just, again, thanks to everybody. And there are numerous ways. I know I've communicated with many on how we can help our community, those people that are kind of in need and need to do that. I know the Weekly Change and other organizations have community food drives. So a real simple thing to do is drop off a bag of food that helps people that cannot go out and shop. So we as a community can help so that we care, that we support one another, and us up here all have to deal with what you've heard tonight and to do the best for the residents of the city of St. Charles. So I just ask that we all work together and make that the best that we can in any way, shape, or form that it looks like. So I appreciate Vicky's opportunity to create, and Alderman Sulkitis, a resolution or a proclamation that says publicly that we do care about each and every one of you. So again, thank you for your time tonight.
Okay, Councilmember Baumgart?
Well, since we're all going, around, I might as well get in. So, you look at these meetings that we've been having here the last month and a half or so. It's getting to be a pretty familiar group. You're seeing a lot of the same faces. You're seeing a lot of similar themes. People are gonna. My ask would be, we are a body as one. So, whether you feel like council's not moving fast enough, or hey, I don't agree with their position. I would encourage every single person up there to reach out to people individually and sit down and have those conversations, with an alderperson, with a mayor, to talk about what their position is, what their thoughts are. Because the reality is, Mark and I may not agree. We may never agree. And if you're looking for, and I'm not saying that Mark and I don't agree, he came up, but my message would be, I've had a lot of really, really good conversations with stakeholders, with people sitting in this room. And I think, one, don't judge a book by its cover. Two, understand the reality of what somebody might want, what they think, is the best course of action moving forward. But the reality is, if you haven't spoken, if you haven't taken the temperature, if you haven't learned where people are, what their thoughts are on, I would encourage you to do that. Because the reality is, there are conversations like that, and I don't want people projecting, they're not doing this because X or why not Y. Pick up the phone, send an email. You would be amazed at how people will want to engage on this. But the reality is, it's 10 council members, it's one council member. That doesn't mean that people don't have their particular positions and aren't willing to sit down and talk with people about it. So I would just encourage, this conversation obviously isn't going anywhere. I would encourage people to reach out so that they can have some of those discussions.
Okay, Alderman Foltz.
Yeah, I agree with you, Alderman Baumgart, on so many points, because I've had some wonderful conversations the last couple weeks with people who have reached out, and I love hearing different people's points of view. I love hearing what they have to say. I'm not afraid to express mine to them when asked at all on where I stand on any issue here. And I think that can all help with our conversations and what we're trying to do here to come to the best, most logical decision that's going to be best for our city and every resident here overall. And I know it's a process, and I know the process is frustrating. I know the process takes time. We want to get it right, and we want to do right by you. And that takes time, and that's what we're working on. That's what I'm working on. And I don't care if you're from my ward or not. I've answered many people if they're from my ward or not. I talk to Mrs. Brenz once a week when she comes to Redling. Even though I'm off 8th hour, I try to scoot out right, and she catches me. But these are wonderful conversations that I get to have with her weekly from different perspectives to hear different things. I'm not going to think any of us up here have all the answers either. That's the beauty of what we get to do here. We get to listen and learn from others. So, again, to Alderperson Baumgart's point, feel free to reach out. Feel free to grab our ear. We'd love to hear from you and talk to you. So thank you.
Mrs. Brand, you know what? It's very hard to tell one of our former teachers no. But so anything else? So I'm just going to end it by, thank you for reminding me that council needed to have an opportunity to speak. Thank you for all the comments that have been made, and I would be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Baumgart, roll call, please.
Lund?
Yes.
Gem?
Yes.
Spellman?
Yes.
Petrella?
Yes.
Workball?
Yes.
Bednar?
I think he's off.
I think he's off. Go ahead.
Weber?
Yes.
Sokaitis?
Yes.
Folks?
Yes.
Baumgart?
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.